Pisces. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mikas in New York.
Well, Pisces, this month brings themes of creativity and work. So you may find yourself beginning the month by having a lot of fun and doing a lot of playing, and then finishing the month by doing a lot of working and organizing. And if that happens for you and you want more help with it, you can check the YouTube description below for a link for a natal and transit reading in which Julia and I could answer any questions that you have. Well, I want to start with a couple of asteroid goddesses that are dear to my heart. They are Ceres and Juno, and here's Ceres traveling along through the sign of Cancer, coming to the close of her cycle, which lasts about a year and a half. And as the sun approaches Ceres, this cycle is finishing. And when the sun conjuncts Ceres right here, 29 degrees of Cancer, around July 20th and 21st, we find that closure is going on and new beginnings can start relative to the themes of Ceres. And the themes of Ceres are food, body, and money, the things that connect us to the physical world. So I like to call this Financial Epiphany Day because it's a day of new beginnings. Ceres is moving at her maximum speed, and the sun brings this quality of illumination and also the capacity to take action, to take the insights that you have from the illumination into some form of action that's useful for you financially. So this is a really good time for figuring out what your budget is going to be for about the next year and a half, and making your plans. Maybe have a meeting with your financial planner, for example. Decide how your investing is going to go this year for your future. So that happens around July 21st, 22nd. And then shortly after that, Ceres is going to move on into Leo, which is your sixth house. And when Ceres moves into Leo, I think there's a caution here about becoming spendy. And because Ceres lands in your sixth house while it's in Leo, you might be cautious about being spendy through your job. If you run your own business, this might give you the urge to throw a little more money at a problem than it actually needs. So be cautious about that. Ceres in Leo does love luxury items. And while those are delightful and they can really bring a sense of confidence, it's important to make sure that you're not overspending for what you get while Ceres is in Leo. And Ceres will be in Leo for about another 2 months. The next thing I want to tell you about is Ceres, is Pisces, Juno in Pisces, right over here. She's traveling along through Pisces and about to go retrograde. That is going to happen on July 24th. And you can see that it's happened by this little red RX symbol right here. When Juno goes retrograde, we enter into a relationship retrospection period, and it will impact you the most in whatever area of your chart Juno is traveling through. So Juno will be retrograde in your first house, which means that you'll be entering into a relationship retrospection period that you might be more prone to taking things personally in. So, and you should definitely be looking at your own behavior and your own choices in relationships. And the more that you can take responsibility for the choices that you've made in committed relationships, the better this will go for you as you spend this relationship retrospection period asking yourself some really deep questions about the committed relationships in your life. Most particularly the committed relationships that show up personally and also professionally, like if you're married or if you're engaged, or if you just have a live-in partner that you're committed to, or a partner that you share a child with. And then on the professional side, if you have business partners, or if you run the kind of business that works one-on-one with clients, perhaps a consultancy, then you might find that you are really putting a lot of energy into looking at the history of this relationship and asking yourself some pretty deep questions about it. And among those questions should absolutely be, why did I choose this relationship? And how can I take responsibility for my part in this relationship? And how can I bring this relationship into better alignment with my life, or bring myself into better alignment with it? And to find out more about this transit of Juno, you should check our monthly forecast page, where you will find the video about Juno retrograde in Pisces, where you'll find out a lot more about this transit and its duration and the phases of it. I definitely recommend you check that out. So Julia, you've got news about Mars, Mercury, and Venus for the Pisceans of the world. What is that stuff?
Oh, yes, definitely I do. Hey there, Pisces. We'll begin with Mars. Mars is an important planet because it represents activity. Wherever we have Mars, we can be very driven. But Mars isn't the easiest planetary energy to deal with, because sometimes Mars can also bring a bit of conflict, some rough edges into our lives as well. And for you, Pisces, Mars begins the month in your second house, where it'll just be for the first few days. We really covered this transit in a lot of depth in last month's video. So if you do want to go back for a refresher there, I encourage you. But generally speaking, the second house is the house of your income. It's the house of your stuff, your items. And Mars in the second house might make you kind of driven to acquire more things, or even make a little bit more money too. Certainly nothing wrong with that, but Mars can also bring up some conflicts around money, and sometimes some impulsivity and even competition as well. But by July 4th, Mars is going to enter your third house, where he's going to be for the rest of the month. The third house is the house of communication. It is the house of it represents travel, but not long distance travel, like getting on a plane to a different country, but more like road trips, trips to the beach, trips to a local park. And it can, I think I said siblings, it can also represent your neighbors and your community as well. So Mars in the third house might make you feel very driven to go on trips, take a lot of, you might be moving about town a lot. It can be very useful for getting a lot of things done, appointments here, picking things up there. Mars in the third, the trickiest part of Mars in the third, since the third house does represent communication, is that you might be a bit more prone to being, maybe more direct with your language, and perhaps a little bit sharper with your language too. And, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but, just be a little bit extra careful with your words, especially if you're not seeing eye to eye with somebody. And your siblings, if you have any brothers and sisters, they might be a bit more of a bit more of a nuisance now. Maybe you guys are getting kind of annoyed at each other. Mars, wherever Mars is definitely where we can get annoyed. Or maybe you guys are being really competitive with each other. That can definitely happen with siblings. Then I'm going to talk about Mercury, the planet of communication. It also represents your mind. And wherever we have Mercury, our mind is usually really preoccupied by those things. So for the first few days of the month, Mercury is going to be in your fourth house of family and home, where you might be ruminating or thinking about the past a lot, because the fourth house has a lot to do with, what happened to us many, many years ago. So you might also be thinking about a lot of memories too with Mercury in the fourth. And then on July 4th, Mercury is going to go into your fifth house. This is a really fun house. It represents games, and Mercury actually really likes games a lot too. The fifth also is a creative house. It represents your kids, if you have any, and even if you don't, and you're just thinking about them. So for the rest of the month with Mercury in the fifth, maybe your mind is going to be preoccupied on fun. And that's definitely not a bad thing, unless you've got like a big report to write at school, or there are other things that are sort of taking away from your mental attention, because you just want to go out and have some fun and games. Mercury in the fifth is great for video game playing. It's great for verbal or trivia style games too. And it can also be a great time for any of the writers out there, because Pisces is a creative sign, to get a lot of good creative writing done with Mercury in the fifth. And if you have kids, you might be noticing that you're connecting with them a lot more. Maybe they're texting and calling you more. Or again, your mind could be preoccupied with, ooh, do I want kids? Is this something, I should be focusing on? Now, July 16th, that's a really good date to keep track of, because that's when Mercury will be exactly conjoined and aligned with the sun. And that is known as Greater Epiphany Day. It's actually signals the close of a whole Mercury retrograde cycle that we've already been through last month. But it's a time where you can get some insights, revelations, connections on wherever Mercury is. So in the fifth house, you might have some insights into children. Either an issue you're dealing with a child now, or whether you want to have some. You could also be getting some aha moments in terms of your game playing, maybe some strategies or other types of things, or even creative projects as well. And finally, I always say a few things about Venus. Venus is a great planet. She represents beauty. She represents your relationship. And wherever we have her, we can get a little bit of extra luck. And she starts the month in your fourth house of family and home, where she's kind of there for the first half of the month. And having Venus in the fourth is really lovely. Even if your siblings are kind of annoying you right now because Mars is in the third for most of the month, overall, you are getting along well with your family, like your parents, which are a bit more represented by the fourth house. It could also be a time for getting along well with the people you live with. It's a great time, if you're planning on making a move around this time, really good for that, or doing any type of renovation on your home. Maybe there's something you need to buy, some new appliance, or maybe you need to, beautify a room in some way, paint it. It could be a lovely time for that. And then on July 17th, Venus is going to move into your fifth house. So she's going to be joining Mercury there, which is pretty fun. And having a nice emphasis on the fifth means that there's definitely some fun times coming for you this month. Venus in the fifth is great for the single Pisces out there, because the fifth also represents dating. So you might get a little extra dating luck, find someone cute to connect with. Venus in the fifth, if you do have children, means that you'll be having a little extra harmony with them. Mars in the third might make you a little bit sharp with your words, but overall things are going pretty well with your kids during this transit. And if you love creativity, if you love anything artistic, if you have a partner, you might be wanting to enjoy creativity and fun with them in some way. This is a house that represents places of amusement. Would be a great time to go to a festival, a club, do some gambling with Venus in the fifth.
Nice. So I want to talk about the moons and the seasonal change, starting with the full moon in Capricorn right here on July 13th. Here's the moon landing in your 11th house of community, tribe, friends, and acquaintances. And the sun is opposite to it here in the fifth house of self, identity, personal brand. And there's a tug of war that goes on during a full moon. That's just the nature of full moons. This particular one could trigger a healing crisis and could have you feel pulled in two different directions, like towards, being a self with the sun in the fifth house right here, like I want to be a self, as opposed to moon in the 11th house, but I want to feel the love of my friends. I want to feel contextualized by community. I want to feel like I fit in. And so there's a bit of a tug of war going on under this moon, and Chiron being square the sun and the moon could trigger a healing crisis about that. And you might feel kind of split or kind of dual, and like you need to, find a better balance between these areas of your life. Fortunately, there's a lot of help and harmony that's also connected with this moon. Harmony coming from Juno and Neptune and Uranus. And so that's why we're calling this moon healing with lots of help. And you can find out a lot more about it on our monthly forecast page on our website, pandoraastrology.com, where you'll get a very thorough explanation of this moon and what it means. But suffice it to say that for you, it's going to land in the realm of your identity, fifth house, your sense of self, your creative self-expression and your self-discovery, and also the domain of play and children and playing like a child. So this is the house of I do what I want, and then how that bounces off of and reacts with community and friends and peers. So then the next thing I want to tell you about is long around the 22nd, we see the sun leaving Cancer and moving into Leo, and my nose is starting to tickle. I'm going to preemptively blow it so that I don't sneeze, because that would be really sharp in the recording, and I wouldn't want you to have to deal with that. So the sun is moving into Leo here in the 6th house, and when the sun changes houses, it's like the sunlight comes into this whole new territory, and sunlight is like a metaphor for attention. Wherever you shine the spotlight, the sunlight, the warmth, and the glow of your attention, things can grow in that area in a wonderful way. They can thrive and flourish. So when the sun moves into your 6th house, this being the arena of work, health, service, and personal organization, this is a really great month-long period. So 30 days starting around July 22nd. It's a great month-long period for really attending, paying attention to how are things going in your workplace? What about organization? What about how you do your calendar, how you run your systems, both at home and at work? What about your health routines and rhythms? And putting some high quality attention on that could yield some pretty good fruit this month, starting around the 22nd. And the last thing I want to tell you about is the new moon in Leo. And here we see that there's been a general migration of planets starting out the month in your 5th house of creativity and fun, pulling you, to entertain yourself. But that over the course of the month, they end up in your 6th house of work, health, and service, bringing your attention to that arena. So you may start out wanting to have fun and finish the month wanting to focus on work. That wouldn't be surprising. And this new moon in particular is a really great time to plant seeds, to begin things that are new and that will refresh you emotionally. And to do that, especially in the arena of work. This new moon has a lot of great harmony with it. There's a beautiful trine over to this Jupiter right here. And so we're calling this moon Seeds of Creativity Can Expand Endlessly. It's in the wonderfully creative sign of Leo. And so this definitely suggests that planting seeds of creativity at work can yield some wonderfully expanded results over time. And this moon is the time to do it. Well, that's what we have for you today, Pisces. Hope you enjoyed it. You can always find your horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscope tab. And that's a great place to look for your other horoscope. If Pisces is your sun sign, you should definitely look up your rising sign horoscope because it'll work much better. And you can also get a reading on our website in the readings tab, and there are classes on offer as well. Until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.